This is part 2 of the recorded lecture on the change process. We start with stages of planned change, Lewin's change model. So he has 3 stages. We start with the unfreezing. So we know there is a problem. We're aware that there's a problem and that we need change. We clearly define the problem and why. Why does it need to be changed? We also identify blocks against the change and forces that promote and move the change process along in our unfreezing stage. Moving is part of the process where the change is initiated, but a lot of work must be done. Everyone involved in the change should be involved in the process. I mean, if it's going to affect them, they need to be a part of it, and know why this is occurring. And they should also be able to provide some input. Once the plan is made, the change is implemented. And then we have the refreezing stage. Here we want to prevent returning to patterns that resisted the change from occurring. We want to keep what's in place and working well. And the example on the slide is from an evidence-based practice immersion that several of us went to in Columbus. It was back in 2017. And this was one of the findings from that course. The person that found it was wanting to research clean cathing because she had worked in a physician's office where that's what he did, was clean cath, did not do a sterile catheterization. So she did research and found that it wasn't the method of insertion that caused the problem. It was that the patient had a catheter. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to insert a dirty catheter, but they found that clean cathing was acceptable. So she found the whole unfreezing and moving, but I'd say the moving and refreezing completely would have to be over a long-term period with probably more evidence than what she found. Because I can guarantee a lot of people would argue the fact that it has to be sterile. But just wanted to share that finding. Some effects of change, well, stress. If we're already stressed and then we have the stress of change, we can experience distress. It's too much. Whereas eustress is a moderate amount of stress that makes life easier to handle. Eustress is beneficial when change occurs. General adaptation syndrome occurs when stressors cause a physical disruption. There are 3 stages to the general adaptation syndrome. So the first is the alarm stage. So your body is being put into fight or flight mode. The next stage is resistance. So your body starts to normalize to said stressors. Like, okay, this is going on for a while. This is how we're going to feel. Then after resistance is recovery. Here your body is worn out. Either it recovers from the stressful situation, or the body gives up the fight, and then physical and emotional issues occur. Ambivalence is when you have mixed feelings about the change. You're excited about the change, but then you still think about the way it was and think, oh, it wasn't so bad, was it? Oh, you kind of go back and forth. You're ambivalent. Now, resistance is an expectation when change is possible, and often it's taken personally. Reasons being a lack of understanding, not really knowing why the change is occurring or why it has to happen this way. Talked about, increased workload can cause a resistance. We're disrupting a comfort zone. If the change goes against their cultural beliefs, that would cause an issue. Social resistance, if the change doesn't fit in with the social group. Psychological fear of the unknown, unfamiliarity. Loss can occur with change even if it's small. You guys might remember Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and her stages of individual loss and change. We have 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And a person may kind of go back and forth between, the stages until they come to the acceptance. But yeah, so even with a small loss and change, you can go through the stages of the grieving process. So how do we overcome resistance to change? Communicate. Managers must communicate changes to staff openly, effectively, provide advantages for the change. Why this is happening. Providing incentives, that's always a plus. At the end of this process, we're going to give you this, or we're going to provide this. Sometimes, money may be offered, time off, food, but a lot of change in our facilities go by patient satisfaction scores. So changes you've seen, bedside reporting, not passing a call light without answering it, hourly rounding. Then we have resonance, the response of a system to changes from inside or outside the system. With our general systems theory, states when one part of a system is a change, the whole system is affected. Just like with our concept map, with our patients, when one part of their system, has a change, their whole system is affected. Holistic view, just like looking at your patients as a whole. We need to look at the facility as a whole when changes are made. How is it going to affect other departments? And then adjusting to change. And it takes time. And it could be difficult depending on the situation, but attitude has a lot to do with how people adjust to change. It's important, to stay positive. We know we're going to have bugs to work out. We know things aren't going to work perfect on the first try, but let's just have a negative attitude. Let's be positive. Being flexible is important. The technology is not working in this classroom. We need to move you to another classroom. And coping strategies vary from person to person and really depend on the situation at hand. Influences from your peers, coworker, and family all affect, how you cope with a change. Definitely having that support system, from your peers, your boss, your family, friends, even pets. Pets are amazing. Can help you when you're trying to adjust to a change. So some positive outcomes for change. With returning to college to further your education, there are many positive outcomes that can occur. Increase in pay, your self-confidence and self-esteem. You gain more knowledge, you feel more confident. You complete skills that you may never have completed before. It's going to make you feel more confident. Having the degree, a different license, ability to move into different types of jobs. Think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization.